Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. Today we have lots of very interesting updates and details, so let's start. Probably you may know that the Russians during the previous night, during the previous day and this morning conducted significant number of missile strikes all over the entire territory of Ukraine, and as a result of those attacks the Russians managed to achieve significant results as well. So before we start discussions of all these missile strikes, I would like to remind you one important thing that we discussed 2 days ago. For these purposes, we need to increase the numbers of updates since the 17th of April, and you will understand everything. If you remember, on the 17th of April, the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, reported that NATO will convene a meeting of the Ukraine NATO Council on April 19th with the participation of Zelensky Stoltenberg. So if you remember, on the 17th of April, I told you that very likely that this is not something like a meeting where Zelensky will receive significant number of billions of dollars and, let's say, millions of Patriot systems. Probably the Western countries and NATO countries wanted to remove Zelensky from Ukraine just in safe purposes, just to keep him as far as possible from dangerous situation, dangerous area. And we discussed that probably and very likely on the 19th of April there would be significant number of strikes from the Russian side, and there were very high risk that probably the Russians would try to hunt Zelensky as well. And today, the 19th of let's say April started, and we see the Russian strikes over the entire territory of Ukraine with significant results. Furthermore, I'll remind you that on the 17th of April the Ukrainians attacked Crimea using the ATACMS missiles, and as a result of those attacks they managed to damage the, let's say, airfield and S-300 systems division in Crimea. Currently we haven't received even a single geolocated confirmation of that, but we see that the escalation, we see a certain escalation, and we see that NATO country try to keep Zelensky as far as possible from the dangerous zone, which confirms that everything is okay between Zelensky and his alliance in Europe. So 19th of April, what we have for today, we have significant number of explosions, significant number of damaged Russian missiles, and significant damage the Russians managed to deal to the one of the most important logistical and production area, Dnipro, the town by the name of Dnipro. So let's start step by step. Yesterday in the evening, the Russian sources, on the 18th of April, the Russian sources published the video of how the Russians managed to discover the significant concentration of Ukraine air defense systems in the vicinity of Dnipro, and later the Russians, as a result of Tornado S missile strikes, managed to destroy every single air defense system, at least on the southeastern part of the town by the name of Dnipro. So basically, yesterday in the evening, the Ukrainian air defense system was suppressed in this town. Then the Russians continued their searchings, continued their reconnaissance operation, and they managed to discover the concentration of Ukraine aircrafts and, let's say, ammo depots, warehouses in the airfield to the south of Dnipro, and the Russians start bombing and attacking this territory heavily. According to information we have, the Ukrainians lost several MiG-29 aircrafts and few more additional, let's say, systems that were located on the airfield. So maybe the Ukrainians thought that that was the end, but basically that was just the beginning of the terrible story by the name of missile strikes over Dnipro. Later this morning, more precisely on the 19th of April, we started receiving updates that the Russians, let's say, raised their strategic aviation in the sky, and the Ukrainians were expecting for missile strikes all over the entire territory of Ukraine. And then the Russians launched, of course, missiles were flying above the Ukraine, changing their course, changing its roads, and at the end the missiles, lots of missiles arrived in Dnipro. We have the videos and the photo confirmations of the result of the strike. We see a very big building. Currently we don't know for sure what exactly was located in the building. The Ukrainians, of course, are saying that that was the building with civilians, with significant number of civilians. Probably the Russians will provide us some updates and details and some confirmations that that building was probably used by Ukrainian special services, like let's say intelligence services or SBU services, or maybe some generals or something like this. Furthermore, I'll remind you just that 2 days ago, the Russians conducted a missile strike in Chernihiv, and according to information we have, the Russians managed to cut the, let's say, command group of northern, let's say, tactical direction. But the Ukrainians also reported some important updates, and according to information we have, somehow or as a result of something, the Russian Tu-22 lost its, let's say, possibilities to be under control and fell down. The Ukrainians are saying that they managed to bring down the Russian Tu-22, the aircraft that the Russians were using to attack the Ukrainians with missiles. They managed to bring this machine with S-200 missiles, but the Russians are saying that this is not, it's impossible to bring down these Tu-22 with S-200, but currently we need more information. The Russians are saying that there were some problems with engine. Furthermore, the Ukrainians published additional information about the work of their air defense, and they have added that system, that's Tu-72, in their report, saying that Tu-22 was brought down by them. Also, the Ukrainians stated that they managed to bring down two, let's say, cruise missiles, Ha-22, and the sources are saying that for the first time since the beginning of the special military operation, the Ukrainians managed to bring down these, let's say, these missiles. So very likely, based on all these things, based on all these situations, very likely the Ukrainians did receive air defense system from the Western countries, probably from Germany, like Iris-T, or maybe additional Patriots arrived in Ukraine. And today the Ukrainians shown more or less interesting performance. If it's true that Ukrainians brought down, let's say, Tu-22, of course, this is significant results. And if the Ukrainians managed to bring down the Russian Ha-22 cruise missiles, it's also very, let's say, big advance, very big progress from the armed force of Ukraine. But we need more details information, whether it's true or just a fake information from the Ukrainians. Furthermore, the sources reported that there was a very heavy explosion in a town by the name of Pavlograd. This is the main logistic hub in this area that Ukrainians use for a deployment of forces from one part of Ukraine to another. Currently, we haven't received any geolocations or videos, but let's wait a little bit more. And the Russians continue suppression and destroying of Ukrainian energy facilities in the vicinity of Kharkiv. According to information we have, as a result of sabotage groups, the Russians managed to destroy or damage the gas pipeline, and the gas pipeline that Ukrainians were using to support Kharkiv with hot water, with gas, and so on. So this is another step from the Russian side to force civilians from the Kharkiv to evacuate and to leave this territory, let's say, in direction of the western part of Ukraine. So today we can say another step, another wave of escalation took place on the territory of Ukraine. Significant number of strikes, casualties, many other things. Zelensky currently is in Europe trying to say hide himself and to stay in the safe zone. Probably soon he will return back to Ukraine after the Ukrainians will receive some guarantees from Russia that they would not attack him. But he maybe can rely on some guarantees, but just till the 21st of May. After that, the Russians would not give any guarantees. Furthermore, the Russians continue publishing the videos of more and more batches of armored vehicles and tanks heading to the line of combat contact. Significant number of T-90 tanks were moving to the line to the Donetsk or Zaporozhye directions. So we see that the process of production is unstoppable, and the Ukrainians currently can't do anything with this. Now let's move to the situation on the ground. We have additional reports and different interesting updates. According to information we have during the previous 24 hours, during the previous few days more precisely, the Russians conducted another offensive operation in direction of Vadiana from Salotka, and that was a very powerful attack with significant number of armored vehicles and tanks. We will not watch the video due to casualties among soldiers, but anyway, according to let's say geolocations in the video, we can say that the Russians managed to improve their positions and to establish control over additional tree lines and the forest belts in direction of Vadiana. So the Russians are getting closer and closer, trying to force the Ukrainians of the 72nd Mechanized Brigade to fall back from this artillery pocket towards the main supply road between Ugledar and Konstantinovka. We haven't received anything from Krasnogorovka during the previous night. We have some updates from Pervomayska and Nitailova. The sources reported that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to establish control over the first streets in the town. This information was confirmed by different reliable sources and different reliable mappers. So the battle for Nitailova has started. It's not going to, of course, take up to months or two of clashes, but probably Nitailova is not so big. But during the next few weeks, the Russians very likely will establish control over the northern part of the village, this one, and probably a few more days they're going to need to establish control and to clear the farms that located on the southwestern part of the village. So farms obviously is going to take place for a time for Russians to clear the area. The sources continue reporting about further Russian Russian offensive in direction of Ocheretina. A few more mappers continue updating their maps, showing additional Russian progress. Currently, the Russians control this gas station and oil energy facility station. The Ukrainians tried to counterattack the Russians for the several times, but most of the attacks were repelled. The Russians from the other side continue pummeling and bombing Keramik and Novokalinova, trying to suppress the Ukrainian positions, so probably we need to expect additional Russian attack on the northwestern direction during the next 24-48 hours. So the situation in this area is very critical for the Ukrainians. No, as we understand, there were no more updates during the previous night, just local things and so on. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.